Usually it's something that a lot of people can't take. So if it's something that you can't take, maybe you shouldn't expose yourself to the backlash.
In just a few short years, Angel Reese has transformed from a promising college basketball star into one of the most talked about, polarizing figures in the world of women's basketball. From her rise at LSU to becoming a top draft pick in the WNBA, Reese had everything it took to become a fan favorite, adored by fans for her raw talent, charisma, and sheer determination on the court. But somewhere along the way, her story took a dramatic turn, one that would not only place her under a microscope, but also split public opinion, drawing criticism, controversy, and a growing wave of disdain. So, how did Angel Reese, once a rising star destined for greatness, become the most hated player in the WNBA? Let's dive into the journey that shaped her into a lightning rod for controversy. Before stepping into the WNBA spotlight, Angel Reese was a household name in college basketball. At LSU, she quickly established herself as a dominant force, a player who could do it all. Her ability to control the paint with her size and athleticism, combined with a high basketball IQ and an unshakable confidence, made her a standout on the floor. Fans were drawn to her infectious energy, her relentless work ethic, and her refusal to back down from any challenge. Reese's personality was a refreshing mix of charisma and fierce competitiveness. Her talent, combined with her magnetic presence, made her one of the most exciting players to watch in women's college basketball. But it wasn't just her game that captivated fans. Angel Reese had a personality that set her apart from many others in the league. She wasn't shy about speaking her mind, often taking bold stands and refusing to conform to expectations.
So many people are watching women's basketball right now. It all started from the national championship game, and I've been dealing with this for 2 years now. And understanding, negative things have probably been said about me, but honestly, I'll take that because look where women's basketball is. People are talking about women's basketball, but you never would think that we'd be talking about women's basketball.
Whether it was through her social media presence, interviews, or her outspoken opinions on the game itself, Reese had a way of grabbing attention. Her confidence was contagious. She wasn't afraid to show off her personality and make headlines, often leaning into playful taunts and bravado. Fans loved her for it. She wasn't just another player, she was a character, a trailblazer who dared to stand out. Her success on the court and her natural charisma made Reese one of the most marketable young athletes in women's basketball. Scouts and analysts alike were convinced she was destined for greatness in the WNBA, and as she approached the 2023 WNBA draft, anticipation for what she could bring to the professional level was palpable. Reese's energy, combined with her ability to perform in high-pressure situations, made her a standout prospect, someone who could inject new life into the league, bringing a fresh perspective while appealing to both fans and sponsors alike. And it was clear that the WNBA saw Reese as someone who could be a cornerstone of the league's future. Reese was selected as the number 2 overall pick in the 2023 WNBA draft by the Chicago Sky. The expectations were enormous. She wasn't just entering the league as a rookie, she was entering as someone expected to carry the WNBA into a new era. Fans were excited, analysts were buzzing, and the media couldn't get enough of her. Reese was thrust into the spotlight as one of the league's bright young stars, someone who could help drive the WNBA's continued growth and popularity. But what Reese walked into was not just a celebration of her talents, it was a minefield of unspoken rules, expectations, and professional boundaries. The WNBA, while progressive in many ways, is still a league that places significant importance on its players maintaining professionalism on and off the court. Success in the WNBA wasn't just about scoring points. It was about image, behavior, and understanding the weight that came with being one of the league's faces. Reese, however, wasn't particularly interested in playing the role that many expected of her. She was bold, she was unapologetic, and she refused to water down who she was to fit into the professional mold. From the moment she set foot in the league, Reese's personality began to clash with those expectations. She wasn't here to tone herself down. She was here to play her game, and she was going to do it on her terms. For some fans, this boldness was refreshing. Reese didn't shy away from the spotlight. She embraced it. She was confident, brash, and didn't mind stirring things up a bit. But as her actions began to grab more headlines, something else was taking shape, a growing divide between those who admired her independence and those who found it off-putting. The moment that seemed to turn everything in Reese's favor began as a playful act. a harmless gesture at first glance. After a game, Reese performed a taunt that, to some fans, was seen as playful confidence, but to others, came off as arrogance. During an interview, she mimicked WWE superstar John Cena's famous "you can't see me" hand gesture. It was meant to be a lighthearted moment, a nod to her competitive spirit and playful nature, something fans had seen from her before and admired. But what seemed like a fun post-game celebration quickly exploded into something much more controversial. The gesture didn't sit well with everyone, especially in a professional league like the WNBA, where players are expected to keep things above board and focus solely on performance. To some, Reese's taunt was a moment of unsportsmanlike behavior, a step too far for someone still establishing themselves in the league. Media outlets quickly caught wind of the moment, and what began as a playful act was turned into a headline-making story. Fans from different corners of the basketball world began weighing in, some supporting her confidence, others criticizing her perceived lack of professionalism. The media frenzy that followed was relentless. Sports analysts, pundits, and even former players began offering their takes, some defending Reese's confidence, while others accused her of disrespecting the game and professionalism. The situation escalated rapidly as fans took sides. Some were on Reese's side, supporting her boldness and understanding where she was coming from, while others saw it as a reflection of an athlete who lacked respect for the game and the professionalism expected in the WNBA. From that moment, Reese became a target, someone whose every action was scrutinized, dissected, and debated. As the media amplified the story, Reese became a magnet for criticism. It wasn't just her play on the court that was under scrutiny, it was everything about her. Her boldness off the court, her interactions with fans, and her perceived attitude became a focal point. The WNBA itself had to step in, with league officials issuing mild reprimands and other players beginning to voice their opinions. Some teammates privately expressed concerns, worried that Reese's behavior was becoming a distraction. Meanwhile, others saw her actions as part of the modern athlete's persona, someone who wasn't afraid to push boundaries in an effort to be authentic. Yet, the damage was done. Reese had firmly established herself as someone whose personality was as big as her game. The backlash didn't fade. If anything, it intensified. Fans, analysts, and fellow players began to see her as someone who had crossed the line, someone who refused to play by the unwritten rules that many believed made the WNBA special. While some praised her for her confidence, many others began to view her as someone whose actions were becoming more about self-promotion than team success. She had become a lightning rod for criticism, someone whose presence on and off the court seemed to divide opinion. The divide between fans only deepened as the story gained momentum. Social media became the battleground where Reese's every move was dissected, judged, and discussed. Some fans couldn't get enough of her boldness, praising her willingness to stand up for herself and reject traditional expectations. They celebrated her for being unapologetically real and refusing to conform to what others wanted from her. For these fans, Reese was a trailblazer, someone who wasn't afraid to stand out and let her personality shine. The divide between fans only deepened as the story gained momentum. Social media became the battleground where Reese's every move was dissected, judged, and discussed. Some fans couldn't get enough of her boldness, praising her willingness to stand up for herself and reject traditional expectations. They celebrated her for being unapologetically real and refusing to conform to what others wanted from her. For these fans, Reese was a trailblazer, someone who wasn't afraid to stand out and let her personality shine. The line between admiration and disdain became razor thin. What once was seen as confidence quickly became perceived as cockiness, and what once appeared as playful became seen as provocative. Reese had cultivated a loyal fan base, but at the same time, she was beginning to alienate those who valued a more traditional approach to professionalism in the league. Every interaction on social media, every post-game interview, and every highlight reel clip became a source of fuel for both sides of the argument. As the criticism grew, sponsors began to take notice. Reese's sudden rise to fame had caught the attention of many brands, but now, with her reputation becoming increasingly polarized, some companies started to distance themselves. Major endorsement deals that once seemed like slam dunks began to pull back, wary of aligning with someone whose public image had turned into a controversy magnet. Brands didn't want to be associated with someone whose behavior could alienate a substantial portion of their audience. Reese's boldness, which once seemed like an asset, was now beginning to threaten her career prospects beyond just the court. For someone so young and talented, Reese's reputation became a ticking time bomb. Her game remained strong. She still had the skills and ability to dominate on the floor, but her off-court antics began to overshadow her performances. The media continued to dig deeper, highlighting every misstep, every reaction, and every statement made by Reese. Sponsors, wary of controversy, pulled back, while fans began to question whether Reese's behavior was becoming a distraction from her true purpose, playing basketball. Instead of retreating or apologizing, Reese doubled down on her stance. She refused to back down, unwilling to be silenced or molded into someone she wasn't. Her defiance became her defining trait. In interviews, Reese made it clear that she wouldn't change who she was for anyone.
People are pulling up to games. We got celebrities coming to games, sold out arenas, like just because of one single game. And just looking at that, like, I'll take the bad guy role, and I'll continue to take that on and be that.
Not for media, not for sponsors, and not even for her teammates. She maintained that she was simply being herself, and if people didn't like it, that was their problem. This made her an even bigger target. Some fans saw her as courageous and confident, while others viewed her as stubborn and unwilling to listen to criticism. Her responses, bold and unapologetic, drew even more attention, but it wasn't the kind of attention she had hoped for. Instead of building goodwill, her stance made her increasingly divisive. The WNBA, while supportive of individual expression, had its limits. Reese had clearly crossed into a territory where even the league itself was becoming concerned. Her actions, whether intentional or not, were drawing attention away from her basketball and focusing it on her persona. It seemed as though Reese was more concerned with building a personal brand than focusing on team success. Fans and critics alike began to wonder whether she was worth the trouble. As Reese's story continues to evolve, the question remains, is she misunderstood, or has she truly become polarizing?
And if I want to be that, and I know I'll go down in history, I'll look back in 20 years and be like, yeah, the reason why we watching women's basketball is not just because of one person, it's because of me too, and I want y'all to realize that.
Her talent on the court is undeniable. She possesses the skills and drive to become one of the greatest players in women's basketball. But her actions off the court, her boldness, and her refusal to conform to traditional expectations have painted her in a different light. Some believe she's ahead of her time, someone who's challenging outdated norms in women's basketball. Others see her as someone whose behavior has alienated fans and sponsors alike. The WNBA has long been trying to build a strong, unified brand, one that emphasizes professionalism, sportsmanship, and teamwork. Reese's actions seem to be a direct challenge to those values, or at least how they're perceived. While she has admirers who see her as authentic and refreshing, many fans and critics view her as someone whose antics are overshadowing her game. Whether she can find a way to balance her on-court performance with her personality remains to be seen. For now, Angel Reese has become more than just a basketball player. She's a figure whose impact on the league is both celebrated and criticized. Time will tell whether she can turn things around or if she will remain one of the most hated players in the WNBA. As Angel Reese's story continues to unfold, the question remains, can she rise above the controversy and reclaim her spot as one of the league's brightest stars? Or will she forever be remembered as the most hated player in the WNBA, someone whose talent was overshadowed by her defiance and bold persona? The answer lies in how she chooses to move forward, whether she learns to navigate the media, rebuild trust with fans, and focus solely on basketball, or if she continues down the path that's already turned her into a lightning rod for criticism. This isn't just a story about one player. It's a story about the complexities of fame, the pressures of professional sports, and the challenge of balancing authenticity with the expectations placed on athletes today. Angel Reese's journey is a reminder that in the world of sports, being unapologetically yourself can be both a strength and a liability. But what happens next is entirely up to her and to the fans who continue to watch, judge, and decide her fate. So, what do you think? Will Angel Reese rise to the occasion and rewrite her narrative, or will she remain a cautionary tale for athletes who dare to speak their truth? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more engaging content that dives deep into the stories that shape the WNBA. The conversation doesn't end here. It only just begins.